know. I don't want to know at all. Oh, hey guys, welcome to the Big Blue United podcast. My name is TJ. I'm here with Dan and Colin, back after our quick hiatus last week because Colin was down at the fest playing music. How was that, Colin? Was it fun?
It was.
Florida.
It was great. Gainesville is a very interesting town. It's very, I don't know, it's very Florida, but it doesn't feel very Florida at the same time. You would actually, if you didn't know any better, you wouldn't even know that the University of Florida was in the town itself. It does feel college-like, but it's like, I don't know, it's different. And it wasn't super hot either because it's northern Florida. So it was cool. It was a good time. It was good to play. Good to see a lot of good bands. Had a sweet Airbnb a little outside of town. It's good to get away for a little bit.
Nice. Gainesville, Rock City, as they call it.
Yeah, it was the first time that I ever saw someone wearing my band's T-shirt who I didn't know walking around. So that's cool.
That's cool.
That's cool.
That's really
I like that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course, Dan and I were on dad duty, Halloween and whatnot.
Yeah. How was that?
Did you get lots of candy, Dan?
No, it was ultra unsuccessful. They have like this area of our town where they like send everyone to go. It's got like a police presence and they block off the street so no cars go down. And it's just, heaving with people. And the second we got down there, Max got psyched out and refused to get out of. He wasn't in his in the stroller, but he got in it and refused to get out for the rest of the time. So we just watched people get candy the entire time.
Oh wow!
What was
we went down to? Yeah. What did he dress as?
He was a fire truck.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a good costume.
I like the truck, not a fireman, a fire truck.
No, he was a fire truck, and Charlie was a garbage truck, and there were two trucks. Yeah,
2 trucks. Yeah, we went to Park Slope. Riley dressed as a cat, and we got a load of candy, and it was fun. We drank some craft beer and paraded around Brooklyn. It's so nice.
Riley, you let Riley drink?
Man. Yeah. She was just pounding beers, punching kids in the face, stealing their candy. It was a very proud father moment for me.
Street tough.
Yeah.
As usual, guys. Oh wait, you know what? I'm not going to do this today because don't go on Twitter anymore. So don't follow us on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, delete your account. But do download the DraftKings app and use promo code TPPN. And you can follow Big Blue United on Facebook and Instagram as well. We're still figuring out what's going on with us. But hey, anyway, since we missed last week, we got a bunch of things to cover. We'll hit the Seahawks game briefly, but the first thing I really want to bring up is the Kadarius Toney trade. Toney was traded to the Kansas City Chiefs for a compensatory 3rd-round pick and a 6th. Something that we called a while ago, I think, was that Toney would never be in a Giants uniform again after his last injury, and we were correct about that. So big pat in the back for all of the Big Blue United listeners and us for that great prognostication. But, Colin, I want to know, how do you feel right now knowing that he's gone?
I don't want to say I could care less. I'm happy he's gone because it's clear that he wasn't fitting with whatever the vision that Dable and company had. If he had, he'd still be here. And fairly clear in retrospect, especially considering he played this last Sunday, he's been fairly healthy for a couple of weeks now. And I just think they were just done with him. So I know that sounds like, old school throwback. Oh, if you're not part of the system, then you can get out. But like, kinda, yeah, that's really it right now. And if he wasn't like buying in, why do we need him? I don't care how
took our jobs.
Well, I mean, he's talented and he's probably going to be a pretty decent wide receiver if he stays healthy. But if he is as big of a moron as we seem to hear he actually is, then I'm okay with him not being around.
I don't even want to be around anymore.
Nice. That's a good reference.
I mean, it's hard to lose somebody with that skill set at a position of really of need right now for the Giants. So I think it is tough just in terms of like what his potential could have been. But like you said, Colin, the medical staff said, he was healthy. They gave him MRIs. He passed everyone and that he was just milking his injuries and that it was all up here. So, I mean, my friend in the Giants medical office tried to make a point to me that he was damaged goods from Florida State, or was it Florida or Florida State?
Florida. Gainesville.
Anyway, before he got in the league, and that Dave Gettleman was the one who not doing his due diligence, and he should be really the one to be blamed for this. And I mean, I tend to agree. And I think if you look at the overall picture here, I think Tony didn't want to play. You get 2 picks for him. That's fine. He was never going to be a Giant. Take what you can get. And if you really like think about it, that trade down turned into Neal and Thibodeau. So you come out of 2 drafts with, 2 big talents at 2 positions in need. Yes, of course, you would have wanted to be 3 players at wide receiver too, which is a big position in need. But I think in the grand scheme of this team, a rebuilding team, losing him isn't that big of a deal. I think the Giants did get value in the draft, regardless of whether or not he's back or isn't, or he's on the team or isn't at this point. So the only reason he was on the team was because Gettleman wanted Devonta Smith and the Eagles picked him before the Giants did. That's it. So just be happy we got what we got at this point with Gettleman in charge at the time.
Yeah.
Terrible. Dan, what do you think? What are you feeling? Anything else?
I mean, all bad things come back to the same guy. It's a symbiotic, perfect relationship we had that started the day we hired Dave Gettleman. As far as Tony, like he was, I think I said it in the preseason, like the thing I was most excited about watching this season, but it became clear that it was something extracurricular outside of football that prevented him from playing. The Giants are probably have the worst wide receiving core in the NFL. I don't think that's even close to an argument. Outside of the Bears. Well, the Bears got Claypool in free agency, so now they're better. And I would argue Darnell Mooney's probably better than anyone else on the Giants too. But if there wasn't an injury and he wasn't sort of a wacky dude, he would have been playing and he would have been, playing well. The talent is obvious. It's going to be a bitter pill to swallow if he ever gets his stuff together at Kansas City, because I think, I can't think of a better environment for a player of that skill set. But I think, it's a pretty big, coup to get a 3rd round pick, a top 100 pick potential probably for essentially a 0 on our roster. So that enables us to have a little freedom next year's draft, package stuff to move up if we have to, or also find value. And I think there's a lot of value with a late 3rd round pick like this might be. So a bummer, but I think we got the best case scenario out of it. And again, instills faith in Joe Shane, Brian Dable, and that they have a plan that they're sticking to and that they didn't go splash cash needlessly in a sort of, season. I think they realized that we're rebuilding a platform for it, despite all the winning we've been doing.
And regardless of how this season ends, the draft looks pretty good for the amount of capital that we have going into it. So it's just only something to look forward to.
Yeah, I heard wide receivers in this draft aren't particularly noteworthy, or at least compared to previous drafts. But I think that's sort of, you don't need a 1st round wide receiver this year. I think if we did that might be a little bit too much. But I'm sure there's value to be found in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th rounds at wide receiver.
And we got the guy to find it.
Yeah, having flexibility with this new front office is going to be cool.
Yeah.
I feel like every year that, the wide receiver groups get more and more deep in the draft, similar to kind of how running backs are. Obviously, those top tier guys are kind of separate, but I think you're right, Dan, that you can find value in the later rounds, especially nowadays. It seems easier anyway.
Someone's always emerging. Yeah,
exactly. But speaking more about things happening around the trade deadline, I know there's a lot of talk about the Giants trading for a number 1 wide receiver, which they did not do. Dan, what were your thoughts there? And did you think the Giants should have gone out and got someone, or were you happy with the decision that Shane made?
I'm pretty much happy. Who are we really looking at? Looking at Chase Claypool, which has some interesting upside, right? He's big and fast. But he ended up, taking a 2nd rounder and another late round pick.
Yeah.
I think again, it was a real reflection of valuing draft picks and knowing what we are, and identifying the players that we have on the current roster. who else was that? What other young players? Jerry Jeudy didn't go anywhere. I don't think anyone else, any wide receiver notable, went anywhere, if I can recall, way back to last week. So I'm okay with it. I think this underlies the fact that Joe Shane's got a very specific way he operates. They went and got Hodges, who we'll talk about in a second, who is someone I never heard of before, which means, we're not going to tie up any money that we don't absolutely have to this year, especially when we have a lot of guys that we want to re-sign next year and, to long-term contracts. And we'll talk about that as well, as I'm assuming.
Nah, we're not going to talk about anything else. This is it.
Yeah.
I think going back to, the Giants, despite being 6-2, are still definitely a rebuilding team. I mean, if you really look at the roster, there's a million holes in it. I think there's really only two guys who are really foundational building blocks in this team at this moment, in Thomas and Dexter Lawrence on either side of the ball there. I think for a team with, you're going to need a cornerback, linebacker, trio, line, tight end, maybe running back, maybe quarterback. You can't really be giving up draft equity with a roster this bad. And I think that and the Giants are also, in a really tough place salary cap wise, would have to restructure deals, kick those down the road, which I know Shane said was kind of like something he never really wanted to do. And if we look forward to next year, Giants are going to have $54 million in cap space, which is fourth most in the league. Another year in 2024, they'll have $172 million projected, which will be second in the league. So I feel like if Shane and Dable have done this and gotten this accomplished with bringing in kind of, the dredges of free agency, when they actually do have, the money to spend next year, they're really going to be able to fill these holes in the roster and, not giving up the draft capital as well. We've seen that they've already had a lot of contributors in their rookie seasons from their first draft. So I think just keeping your draft capital, keeping your checkbook clear as much as you can, it's a decision for long-term success and not just, jumping on, your fire that you have now. I think, they're always thinking ahead. And, I've seen people on Twitter saying that Shane is worse than Dave Gettleman for not, going out and getting a wide receiver. So, okay. I mean, there's a lot of contention, I guess, but I think this is the right choice and it has to be done this way for long-term success.
I love when the morons come out of the woodwork and just expose themselves like that. It's wonderful. It's so obvious when you see that. It's like, oh, come on, guys. We're 6-2 with house money right now. Yeah. Who cares about?
We have no right to have this record right now.
Exactly. So, losing against the Seahawks, it's Geno Smith. That kind of sucks, but whatever.
Geno's playing like a top quarterback.
Yeah, he's playing great, and I'm happy for him. I think it's cool to see him go from the scrap heap to maturing enough to lead a team and making this Seattle front office and Pete Carroll look like geniuses when they got rid of the moron in Denver. So it's
a lot of morons.
Yeah, a lot.
I think also taking a macro view of this, if you look at what happened in Buffalo, this is pretty similar to what they did with that roster when they inherited it up there. They got rid of all onerous contracts, basically started from scratch. I think that season when they were dumping everyone, they had a surprise win at the end of the season that sort of messed up their draft pick because they were still identifying people and had good foundation in place. But 5 years later, they're arguably the best team in the NFL, despite losing to the Jets this week.
I don't even think it's arguably. I think they're definitely the best team in the NFL.
Yeah. Kansas City looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Miami's looking pretty good.
But I'd still give it to Buffalo, but
yeah, for sure. It's not as clear cut as I think it was a week ago.
It's true.
Yeah. But
anyway,
go ahead. Yeah, I mean, looking at adding receivers, we did. You just mentioned Isaiah Hodgins, played for the Bills. Shocker. I think the number one thing that everyone was talking about him is that he didn't really drop any passes in college. He has pretty much no pro experience, very little production. But hey, I mean, you're going to see him playing sooner than later because that's how bad this unit is. I mean, I don't know if you guys have much to say about him other than I hope he can get open and use those hands to catch balls. That would be great.
Did we see what number he was given?
I have not been paying attention to that necessarily.
I'm going to look it up for the hell of it.
Look it up, Colin. But I do want to mention Odell as well. I think that a lot of people are talking about Odell. I mean, obviously he was a great talent. Maybe he still is after a second ACL surgery. And, I was talking to my friend who's a doctor. He said that he thought, or what he had heard, was that Odell's first ACL surgery was not done well. He said that he doesn't think Odell will ever play again. I can't imagine that would be the scenario. Someone's going to give him a shot on a 1-year deal, prove it, something like that. I don't see why it can't be the Giants. That being said, it's not going to happen this season. He tore his ACL in the Super Bowl. It's going to take over a year for him to come back. So, I mean, maybe you look to that next year, but that's not the immediate help that people think is coming to this team. And he's going to pop in and be his old self and, really make an impact this year, whether it's with the Giants or anybody else. That being said, would you guys like to see him back at some point on this team?
I'd love it. I think it would be great. I mean, you saw him hanging out with his good buddy Sterling Shepard this last week. Yeah, pretty cool to see. He's still tight with a lot of people. I think there's a redemption song to be played, and it would be cool. I mean, he's mentioned it himself. You can tell he's playing his cards. He's throwing it all out there. There was some interview, I forgot what it was on, but it's either out or is going to be out soon, where he was kind of listing the teams that he was thinking about and the kind of scenarios of it. And he said a reunion with the Giants. And I think he's putting it into the collective consciousness and making everybody think about him again, which is, he's playing his cards to get himself in a situation one way or the other. And it's clear he wouldn't say no to the opportunity, because it's possible he might not have a lot of options until he can prove that knee is completely good to go again. So I think he'd be happy being signed by anyone. That being said, I saw someone saying that the Cowboys were a possibility, and that would break my heart. I don't think I could see that. That would be unacceptable. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I wouldn't be a fan of that at all.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys know that I would be pumped for him to join. I don't know that it makes sense this year again, given what we've seen from front office, but a homecoming would be sweet, especially if it's a favorable contract. I think you could look to the Rams to see see the effect a healthy Odell Beckham had on that team. The Rams offense could be the worst offense in the NFL right now.
How did that happen?
Because their entire offense is Cooper Kupp, and Cooper Kupp can't do everything if he's the only thing that other defenses are focusing on. You're seeing how much attention Odell garnered from other defenses.
I mean, Skoranek needs to step up, man.
Skoranek. Skoranek's got a lot of Odell potential for sure.
Yeah.
But I
think
have
Allen Robinson now too.
Allen Robinson's washed.
Does he just disappear?
He's been washed for years.
Wild.
Van Jefferson. Yeah. There's a significant, gap between the talent levels of those guys and Odell Beckham, which is clear. I think he's been saying all the stuff you want to hear as a Giants fan. Just about how it was whatever along the lines of his heart's with New York. So that's got to make you feel good. And Kathy Hart wears an Odell Beckham jersey, I think, regularly, which also bodes well. But if he comes back, that'd be great. I don't think this front office is going to do anything that would be insane to get him. And I don't think getting him this year is in the cards.
Yeah.
He won't be healthy. I don't even get people mentioning him coming this year. He's definitely not going to pass a physical until, probably 8 months from now at the earliest.
I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Dan's glitching out on me a little bit.
Well, I think we should let him. I mean, he's putting himself in the news, and people are going to talk about it because it's him. But I think we're wasting our breath by giving him the time of day until it's, like I said, it's clear that he can run on it and play again. So,
well, I think. Do we mention Isaiah Hodges' size? By the way,
well, he's 6'3", 201 or something like that.
I see 6'4", 210. Sounds like Kenny Galladay's replacement is here.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a number yet. It's not on the website, so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he'll get on the roster.
Hey, he'll be playing on Sunday, I'm sure. You'll see him before.
They said he was a preseason darling.
Yeah, he had some interesting catches in preseason. I saw one. It was one over the shoulder catch. He looked pretty good. Who knows if he can do that again?
I saw a clip of him toasting Darnay Holmes from college.
Nice.
So not that means much, but
what college did he go to?
He's a Beaver, Oregon State.
Oh, interesting.
Beavs.
Nice Beavs.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Your kicker's lining up for an onside kick. The chances of regaining possession are slim. The stakes are high and the tension is higher. Your pulse racing. He kicks and you watch as the ball lands. Make every play feel this exciting with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and their unbeatable offers. Right now, new customers can make any $5 NFL bet and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Check this out. In addition to the usual bets, everyone can boost their winnings with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. To make things even sweeter, you can throw down on stepped-up same-game parlays once per game day all season long. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN to get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Just place a $5 bet in any football game. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook using promo code TPPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Boom. Guys, I do want to mention something that was funny to me because I know that Dan really liked it. I did text you this too about Saquon Barkley.
Oh, yeah.
So Joe Shane, quote here, Saquon Barkley is a culture guy that fits into everything we asked. He's a captain. He's a very good player in his positions who's having a very good season. So he's a guy we're obviously going to do our due diligence on. We'd like to keep him around here so we can get into contract extensions. Dan, is this your worst nightmare scenario that you've heard for the Giants?
I think he's saying get lost, Saquon. And
How so? How does that translate?
Because he's a culture guy. He's everything we like. He's a running back, and we're not going to pay him, is what he said. Did you see where he said that part?
Well, you know what?
Do our due diligence on, and we'd like to keep him around here so we can talk, so we can get into contract extension talks.
But you have to, and it says, but you have to remember he's a running back, and they don't matter, so we're not going to pay him. I think you got. You didn't get the full quote.
I missed the quote.
Yeah,
okay.
You know, that's an interesting thing to bring up, TJ, because here, a perfect example is this Kadarius Toney character who's no longer on the team. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you're a raving moron jerk, you can't be on the team. However, if you have a lot of talent and you're a culture guy, that's good for the team. There needs to be somewhere in between. I mean, you don't have to be a jerk, but like the
Are you doing a Bronx Tale right now?
What?
You know that line from A Bronx Tale, the worst thing ever is wasted talent?
Well, yeah, it's that's a good point actually. A little Chaz Palmieri action. There's a lot to be said about the locker room guy and that kind of crap. And the Giants have leaned into that more in the past when it didn't mean anything. But he's unfortunately a running back and a very good dude who actually cares about this team. And the fact that he's a running back doesn't help his cause at all. And I think that Shane is saying the things that the Giant fan and the media want to hear without giving his showing his cards. So, Dan, I think you're onto something. I think he has no problem letting this guy walk by any means. I think he'd want to get something for him, but I think he recognizes he's good for the team. He's good for the team this year, and he's probably good for the team in the long term as long as it makes sense money-wise.
What number do you want him back at, if that number exists?
What's like a good example of a running back that's done fairly well, that has a decent contract that's not killing their team? Like, who would be that guy at this point?
I mean, probably like you're looking at maybe like Joe Mixon, who is around like the franchise area, which is $12.5 million. That seems like okay to me. I don't think that's going to happen. I think if Saquon manages to make it through the season healthy-wise, I think he's going to command a lot more money than that. I know I mentioned Christian McCaffrey, $16.5 million. I think you're looking somewhere in that ballpark. I think even if, people think he might want to do a hometown discount, which I'm not necessarily sure of. I don't think anybody can be sure of that. I mean, but what is that number then? Is that 14, 15 million? I think that's still more money that, like we mentioned before, there's holes. I think you take that money, you put it into your interior offensive line, and then you look, okay, we're playing Houston this week. Damon Pierce was picked in the 4th round. He's 7th overall in rushing. Saquon is 3rd overall in rushing. He's making $1.2 million a year. Not to say that, that's necessarily like a super easy guy to find, but I think, this sort of thing has been happening more often. I think even, Seahawks, Kenneth Walker, he was a 2nd round pick, so it's a little bit more draft equity than maybe you would like to put into a running back. But again, low salary guy, you can have in a rookie deal for 4 or 5 years, and then you move on. I just don't think that putting money into Saquon, which, he's going to command and will get somewhere else is necessary for the Giants' success in the future. I think you're right, Dan. I think Shane has some more sense than that.
I think it's possible that Saquon will take a little bit of a discount to stick around, but I don't think it's going to be much.
That's what I'm saying. But though, what's a little bit? 14 million?
Yeah,
that's
probably
still too much.
Probably.
I think the franchise tag number is kind of where you might land on him next year for a long-term deal. If you're the Giants, if I'm Joe Shane, which I'm not, but I'm not quite as handsome.
Yeah, it's better looking.
But that's the question I think we brought up a couple of weeks ago. You franchise. I mean, if he continues on doing decent like he's been doing, Jones gets the franchise, or does Saquon get the franchise?
You could do transition tag too. There's actually two options.
That's actually that's a great point for both of them, because I don't even think of anyone else on the roster that would command either of those situations.
Not at all. I think you re-sign Dexter Lawrence to a long-term deal. I think that's beyond obvious. And then I think you can probably, I think you franchise Saquon, you transition Jones, because I think there's not going to be people out there who are going to pay to match Jones's salary, because I just don't think that he's an option that teams are going to look at for that number. And then, I think they've both earned another year, Saquon specifically, but I just, don't see future long-term success in, Barrett putting Saquon in a 4-year deal for $14 million a year. And then, he's probably going to end up getting hurt again at some point in the duration of that contract.
Thank you for bringing
judging
up
on his history. Yeah.
Dexter Lawrence, because apparently that was the hard no on the trade call that Shane received. I mean, who knows if that's actually the case, but it seems to be that's what people believe, is that people were calling about him and he was just like, go to hell, basically. So that's good. I like hearing that, because it's just nice to just fathom the idea of keeping an all-pro defensive tackle more than 4 years before he goes to the Vikings. I think that's a nice thing.
Linval Joseph is still good, by the way.
He's
still top 10. He's still top 10 interior D-line.
Good. And I saw that Jonathan Hankins is on the Cowboys now, which pisses me off.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that even a little bit.
No.
That does happen a lot, though. Guys, go to a division rival because they know a lot about them. I'm sorry, Dan. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, as far as this, salary cap and Saquon, we also have to save money to re-sign Richie James, who will be a free agent at the end of 2023.
He's going to be a free agent probably in a couple days from now.
You know what? He's worked hard for us this year. You can give him that, I guess.
We'll definitely get into some Richie James talk in a little bit. We should mention Xavier McKinney briefly. Hurt his hand in an ATV accident on the bye week. The only thing I want to say about this is Bobby Skinner had a tweet today, and it was something along the lines of this: the only time I've hurt myself on an ATV was when I was doing dumb shit on one, and I've done a lot of dumb shit on an ATV.
So he knows. So
basically, I think it's worse than they're making it out to be. I think McKinney actually really hurt his hand. I know, and I think he's broken. I think you won't see him for a few weeks, but he'll come back with a club at some point.
Put the club on him now and get him out there. I don't care.
I just think it's funny, it reminded me of when Marcus Mariota got drafted and they tried to put in a clause in his contract where he wouldn't go surfing.
Really?
Or when Big Ben signed his extension that said he couldn't ride a motorcycle because he almost killed himself that one time.
I remember. Yeah.
So, I guess Xavier McKinney didn't have the no ATV clause in his contract.
Yeah, you saw the picture of Jihad Ward doing wheelies on the ATV as well.
That was another Bobby Skinner tweet. He's like, "Don't look at Jihad Ward's Instagram." I was like, "Well, I better do it now."
Yeah. Just I get it, guys. You have a bye week. You guys are working hard since the beginning of the summer, but try to not be the dumbest people on the planet at the same time. Try it. You're 6-2. Ride this, not ride an ATV until you're dead.
Yeah, I mean, why don't you just go hang out with some supermodels on the beach for a week and then come back, feel refreshed. Go stand in the bow of a boat with your shirt off.
Don't do that, please.
Yeah, definitely. Invite Odell too.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, it's reverse. We can reverse it. Have the boat trip again, and then we keep winning.
Yeah.
Reverse boat
bring
trip.
Dave's, though. He has to take his shirt off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I think the world needs to see that.
Yeah.
I want Dave's to be the new belly boy.
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nick Gates. glad to see him back in the Giants uniform.
Have you seen video of him from like early on in his NFL career when he's a skinny man?
Brian Daboll?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've watched some young Daboll footage.
It's
for
great.
sure.
It's like, that is the same man. I can't believe this. When he was on the Browns, it was like a completely different character.
Your health deteriorates as you devote yourself to football, watching film.
The
20 hours a
the more long night's sleep you get on a couch in an office, I guess that ends up happening.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Before we
Valley
get into
Boys,
the Seahawks game- oh yeah, go Dan. Nick Gates,
Shane Lemieux.
Shane Lemieux. What about Shane Lemieux?
They're activating him off the IR.
Yeah,
That's it. Just shouting him out.
Good.
He's got some toe issues.
Couldn't have been a better time, really. I think the Giants need some help on the inside, like with Evan Neal being out, especially. Even though he has had his struggles this year, but I think he was starting to turn a little bit of a corner before he got hurt.
What's his timeline? Do we know?
Evan Neal, I'm not positive, man. I don't even really know if it was a sprained MCL. Was that what happened?
Hurt feelings?
I think it was feelings.
Yeah.
Sprained mustache. Does he have a mustache?
No, he does not have a mustache.
Well, then he can't sprain it.
That's why you got to sprain.
3 to 4 weeks with knee injury.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, speaking of injuries, the MetLife field is often the cause of these injuries and heavily lamented. But I have some insider information from an anonymous source. That's all you need right now to report on something. So I am that the Giants are currently under some sort of contract with their field provider. I don't know how that works out, but I didn't ask a lot of questions because I was getting this information and
Big
just
turf.
nodding my head.
Yeah.
Big turf.
So apparently, after the 2024 season, the Giants will be removing the MetLife turf and changing the playing surface to presumably grass. I'm not 100% sure.
What about the Jets? Do they still get turf? They put the
Yeah,
turf
they
over
wheel
the
it
grass?
back in.
The grass and turf out in between games. But apparently this is a heavy push from the Giants medical staff to the front office to make this change to ownership. So Giants are currently second in the league with most injuries. And, that turf has, I think, been notorious around the league for being a season ender for a long time. So if this does come to fruition, which I'm fairly certain it will, I think this is a huge win for everybody, and not just for the Giants and Jets, but for the whole league.
I think realistically, because of the cheap factor of the Johnsons, Maras, and Tishes and what have you, you'll probably see a hybrid situation, which is a new revolutionary grass management kind of thing where they're actually threading fake stuff with real grass. So it'll probably be something along those lines. At least it's better than whatever garbage they have now.
It'll be a new way to cause unnecessary injuries. It'll be even worse.
No. Apparently that's the wave of the future. That's what a lot of
the future of more ACL injuries.
Well, it's like Premier League teams are starting to use that kind of stuff too. So I think they're looking internationally to see what
does it hurt less when you flop as well?
I think so.
That's why the Premier League uses it. Okay.
Yeah. No, there's not flops. It's dives.
Man, some of those soccer dives, flaps, whatever you want to call it, are really pathetic. I mean,
yes, they are.
Bad. Yeah.
I agree. But when it's an art form when you do it well, though.
Yeah. Oh, I did want to congratulate. Who won the MLS Cup? I forgot.
LAFC, and it was an incredible game.
They beat Philadelphia Union on the same day the Philadelphia Phillies lost the World Series. So
it feels great.
The first city to lose 2 championships on the same day.
It's great. And it couldn't happen to worse people.
Bunch of Johns.
Yeah.
Get out of here with that John stuff, whatever that means. Go drink a glass of water.
It was good. It was an incredible game. It went into penalty kicks. It was like 127 minutes or something of the game. It was wild. It was pretty great.
Where do they have the MLS Cup?
Oh, it's whoever has the highest.
Chuck E. Cheese? Did you say Chuck E. Cheese?
Chuck E. Cheese. You're a dope. You're a real dope. It was in LA.
Okay, that's cool.
At a soccer field.
Yeah, at therapy
on the pitch
at LA's stadium.
Okay, I figured they'd have it at like someplace bigger, so you could like fit.
They used to have neutral sites, and then they made it a kind of thing like where you earn your home field advantage if you have a better record going into the playoffs.
I do like that. That is interesting. Similar to I feel like wasn't there an MLB thing for a while that the team that won the All-Star game, got to have more home games or
Yeah.
something like that. Anyway, F the Eagles and all affiliates of them.
Yep.
On to, I know we didn't do last week, so we didn't get a chance to talk about the Seahawks. That being said, I think, it's a little bit past maybe the expiration date of talking about this game, but I still want to give our thoughts a little bit overall. What were your guys' feelings about this game? I mean, Giants go down to 6-2. Didn't look great. I don't know. What do you think, Dan?
I mean, I think it's colored by what we saw this week with Seattle as well. I think they're a better team, but I think the Giants were also in the game for the majority of it until the fourth quarter, until late in the fourth quarter. When there's a Tyler Lockett touchdown and then Kenneth Walker touchdown, we sort of kicked ourselves in the shit. What? Kicked ourselves in the butt.
Shot yourself in
Shot
the foot.
ourselves in the foot. Yeah. We didn't, but Reggie James did it.
Reggie James?
Reggie James, what's his name? Ricky James?
Richie
Richie James? I don't know. I thought they played pretty well, given that we had no passing game and had a formidable offense to try to lock up. One thing that popped off the screen to me was Tom and Fox. I thought he had an excellent game. Great. I think we shouted him out in the preseason as an interesting, undrafted free agent. But again, a big guy, an edge guy, 6'3", 260. And then I checked the box score, and he actually did have a really good game. He had 8 total sacks, 6 solo, and 2 for a loss.
I think he was third highest rated defender on PFF.
And arguably the worst jersey number in sports.
What is it?
49.
Yeah, it's not a great.
Whatever.
And him and Micah McFadden were 2 of the highest rated rookies that week, which is just cool. So it's nice to see people like that step up. I don't know. I wasn't hating it. I feel like it was, we should have lost that game, but
yeah, I think it was kind of coming, especially with the West Coast trip. That's always a tough one for East Coast based teams for whatever reason, the travel, what have you. But and a depleted team with hardly any talent. I think it's all going to come to a head eventually, and couldn't have come at a better time. I mean, the bye week. It's a good point to get someone back. I mean, Lemieux's coming back, hopefully, and we'll see him playing sooner than later. The game itself, I mean, I wasn't as disappointed as I would have been in the past because, again, with the house money situation, Geno Smith looked great. He's efficient as all hell. They have a pretty decent team, and I don't know. Did you guys notice the look on Dable's face a lot of the time, like he was smiling? Did you notice that? Like he was incredulous or something. Not that he was pissed off. It was almost just like, well, I guess this was going to happen eventually.
I think I know that what you're trying to get at, sort of just like him.
Yeah, this is where it's going here,
guys. This is a visual pod. You have to check us out on YouTube in order to see the faces Colin and I just made.
Yep. Now that DraftKings is paying us for YouTube views, we can start promoting the YouTube videos more.
There we go.
And if you never checked it out, we're all shredded, ripped, and don't wear shirts during the podcast. So come check it out.
Right. Check out.
That's what the 6 guys that listen to this podcast want to see.
Yeah. Steve definitely loves that aspect of things.
I like that.
TJ, what did you think about the game? What did it make you feel?
Well, it made me feel like this is the team the Giants are, and they basically played the same game that they played all year. Being that they were just competitive enough on both sides of the ball to stay in it. And then when you have 2 gigantic, awful turnovers and you are not a team that has a competent offense enough to put up a cushion of points, you will not win the game. So the Giants don't have the, luxury of being able to turn the ball over once, let alone 2 times, and especially on special teams. So I think if those 2 fumbles didn't happen, you might have seen the Giants win because it's been close games every year. I think in any other game of the year, if they had turned the ball over towards the end, then there probably would have been a similar outcome to this game. I was just really happy to see that Jones is still on his MVP pace, 17 for 31 for 176 yards and no touchdowns. So I'm sure a lot of people on Twitter are really happy to see that, he's still in the runnings and that the DraftKings bets for Daniel Jones winning MVP are still going to be super valid coming towards the end of the season.
Undeniable force at quarterback. He's the best, not only the best passer, but also the best rusher. Like you see Justin Fields this week, like Daniel Jones could do that if he wanted, right?
If he wanted.
You know what actually I was kind of impressed with, to go off topic, was last night with Derrick Henry and Malik Willis, and they were just every other play like doing the RPO and like Willis going on the outside, Henry running on the inside, and just the Tennessee's defense had no idea what was going on until they eventually clamped down on it. But
it almost beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, the Giants could pull this off too if they did it more often, which they do to a good degree. But
and if Daniel Jones is a way better athlete,
that too would be helpful. Positives for me is I thought Slayton had a really good game. I think that he needs to keep that up if the Giants have any shot of having any sort of legitimate passing game moving forward. Tanner Hudson kind of coming in at tight end and making a small impact already. And, just want to mention Nick Gates one more time, man. I would just love to see him out there. He barely played, but he's back, and I love it.
And let's not forget, because we don't have to say his name every week, but Andrew Thomas, again, he's the best left tackle in the NFL right now, period.
Pay him.
The stats are there.
I'd like to think that Joe Shane has already, has his salary cap plan for like 4 years down the road, and Dexter Lawrence and Andrew Thomas both being paid the biggest contract at their position in the league is part of that.
Might be.
I think that's what it's going to take at this point. And I think they're both worth it. And they're, having those anchors on the defensive and offensive line are huge, man.
Agreed.
Those are really good value positions. And, Big DG hit on the draft there, which was great for us. I'm glad that the coaching staff now was able to unlock their talent.
Apparently, I didn't see it myself, but apparently Jason Garrett on the broadcast last night discussed Andrew Thomas and had a little smug kind of like, "Oh, that's my guy. I was part of that. You did nothing, you moron." But anyway,
go run the most boring offense of all time. Do you even know what Daboll's doing?
No, he has no
idea.
He's
He's not running the stick, so you don't even know.
No.
Let's jump forward, guys. Houston next week. This is actually an interesting game. Houston, Texas.
I was trying to say it like a rich white guy. Houston.
We
don't pronounce like that H sound.
Houston.
Yeah.
So I've not watched, and for good reason, I've not watched one Texans game. Well, I guess I could have watched last week, but I missed it. I don't know a hell of a lot of what's going to happen. I mean, I know they're a running team, like you mentioned. I hardly know that running back.
He's on my fantasy team. That's kind of why I've had a little bit more insight into the Texans offense.
Also from Gainesville, Gator.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I feel like it's going to be one of those games where the talent levels are pretty matched. It seems that the teams are close like that. So hopefully it won't be the most dreadful thing of all time. Maybe it'll even be entertaining. Hard to tell.
Oh, man. I'm looking at Davis Mills stats versus Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Davis Mills is thrown for 1,656 yards. Daniel Jones is 1,399. Davis Mills has 10 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Daniel Jones has 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
He's only thrown 6 touchdowns
on the year, dude.
Through 10 weeks. That's wild.
If he throws 12 touchdowns this season, gotta give him the biggest contract in the NFL.
Those are MVP numbers, baby.
12 touchdowns, man.
Wow. Actually, you guys are right. These teams, despite the records, these teams are pretty similarly matched on paper. I think you have two teams with talent-wise. You have 2 teams with good to great running offenses, top 10 running offenses in the league. 2 teams with very bad passing offenses, 2 teams with very bad rushing defenses. So I think, it's just going to be a lot of old school football. I think the Giants have a lot of chances to rip off big runs, Jones and Saquon. I think, I'm inspired by Malik Willis. I hope that Kafka is too. I hope they do a lot of RPO. I think that's going to work really well against a Texans defense, which is really terrible. I think the Giants do have the edge just because their pass defense seems to be far superior. At least that's what the numbers appear like to me.
And I think Lovie Smith must have like some dirt on the ownership, because that guy stinks as a coach.
He looks like he stinks as a human being too, with that wizard beard he's got. It looks like a homeless look he's got going on.
Like the guy that cleans up your bar, huh?
Yeah. Oh no, Dan, that's not nice. Well, Canada's a good dude. There was a guy. I don't know if you guys watched the World Series at all, but there was this guy in Philly, and he just had this greasy hair, this long, disgusting beard that looked like he never had like brushed it ever. And I was like, that guy smells like you just smell him through the TV. That's what I feel about Lovie Smith. I wish I had this guy's name.
We're Philly. Under the age of 75, so we didn't watch the World Series, TJ.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how that goes.
When you're at the bar, you just put it on.
Yeah. I will say that the Texans have more yards passing per average per game than the Giants by almost 30 yards a game. We outpace them in rushing. And their defense, yes, is worse. They allow around 410 yards versus our 356.
Well, I have a strong feeling about this one, and I think that it will be decided by 3 points
shootout.
Or less. 3
Davis
points
Mills and Daniel Jones.
3 points or less in the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter.
Whoever can throw for 200 yards is going to win.
Yeah, if whoever quarterback gets 2-1 and a touchdown, that's the one that's going to win this game. Presumably move up in those DraftKings MVP standings as well.
It's going to be one of those silly rushing games, and Jones isn't going to have to do anything. And I feel pretty good about our chances to win. I know we're 6-point favorites. I think was the last I saw, which is the first time this year. Or did we have any favorite situations before?
Yeah, we're six. We're home, 6-point favorite, but again, we're playing a 1-6 team. So
yeah,
any other 6-2 team would probably be like a 10-point favorite.
Sure.
Vegas knows their stuff. They're not going to throw all their eggs away. Eggs in one basket. I don't know what phrase
you could have asked for
but you get it.
A better setup coming out of bye. A nice way to ease back into the rest of the season. Be nice to see.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Continue.
It'd be nice to see all of our playmakers out in the field making plays.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. I think this is a really easy victory for the Giants. Probably like 2017.
Yeah. No, I think I think that is probably what the score is going to be. Something along those lines. It'll be a miracle if anyone breaks 30.
I'm going to say the score is going to be Giants 20.4 points, Texans 16.6 points, because that's their average for the season.
Do we have an over/under on this game?
I'm sure it's 40. It's got to be. Can't be more than 40.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not going to be a pretty game.
39 points.
Jesus.
Good guess.
I'm going under. I'll take the under.
Yeah, me too.
Anything else tonight, guys?
Oh, any other NFL stuff going around that's interesting?
Jeff Saturday's the new coach of the Colts.
Yeah, and I like that. Whoa. Actually. I didn't
Frank
even
Wright's
know that.
Out?
Yeah, I didn't even know he was on the organization.
Huh.
I had no idea either. I didn't
reeks of Irsay just going crazy.
That guy's insane.
I think Frank Reich is a good coach.
He is a good coach.
Jeff
Bad organization.
Okay.
It's always sad to see Tom Brady win. So that's
I watched the end of that game. I was going to text
fire.
everybody. I was like, Tom Brady sucks, and then they won.
Yeah.
He still sucks.
Yeah,
which is great. Aaron Rodgers sucks. That makes that Giants winning that Packers game not as special at this point.
I mean,
that brings me joy. Brings me so much joy.
Yeah. I don't know. Anything else in the NFL that was interesting this week? I mean,
the Dolphins look really good.
Yeah, I haven't seen a game of theirs in a while.
Their offense is insane.
Yeah. Well, that Mike McDaniels is or Daniels, whatever is McDaniels.
Yeah.
He's a wild man, and he's smart as hell. And it's cool to see coaches that are unorthodox and willing to open the playbook and get video game weird with it, kind of do some stuff. So I think it's great for the league, and the Dolphins have been in the doldrums for entirely too long. Hi, Riley.
Riley, can you say go Giants?
Giants.
Go Giants.
Go Giants.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's it.
Teach
That's
them
how we
while
end
they're
the pod.
young. Mwah. All right, guys. Thanks for listening tonight. Delete Twitter. Follow Big Blue United on Facebook and Instagram. Don't forget to download the DraftKings app. Use promo code TPPN. And go Giants!
Go Giants.
Yeah.